Well, my friend Boosie just cut off his ankle monitor.
I've actually been meaning to look up the video and watch him do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, he had a case in San Diego. It was a gun case.
Yes.
They were letting him go and giving him probation. And then as he was leaving, the feds took on the case.
Yes.
So now a whole new problem arose, which is why he had the ankle monitor for a while. But recently he cut it off.
Yes.
And what exactly does that mean in terms of the case in general?
Yeah, it's good news for him. It wasn't looking good in the very beginning. I remember I went down to a hearing, I think it was in January, and the prosecutor on this case is an older assistant U.S. attorney who you can just tell could have retired a while ago, but he enjoys putting people in prison. And he had talked to the judge about how there was this bigger investigation and he didn't want Boosie to have any contact with his girlfriend or fiance. He was totally opposed to that. And the judge said, okay, I'll let this happen for 60 days, a no contact order for 60 days, assuming that, in that time, something's going to happen. But 60 days went by and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden there was a Ninth Circuit ruling that's very much in his favor. And it was a felon in possession of a firearm case in a situation that really mirrors him. And it's a response to a Supreme Court case actually regarding the Second Amendment, U.S. Supreme Court, and it's Bruen, B-R-U-E-N, was the case. It was loosening restrictions on felon in possession of a firearm, but it hadn't yet been applied in the Ninth Circuit, which is where Boosie's case is charged in. And as of the charging of Boosie's case, the standing law in that said that his felon in possession of a firearm was basically fine as is. But this new ruling that came out in Duarte, it was Stephen Duarte is the guy's name, his nickname's Shorty. But this was actually the Ninth's first application of this SCOTUS ruling to Second Amendment law in the Ninth Circuit. And it said that, because he was stopped and wasn't accused of any other crimes and his felony convictions are nonviolent, that his current felon in possession of a firearm charge should have been thrown out, that it was dismissed. And the judge said, she read this Duarte ruling and said, this basically mirrors Boosie's case. And she said, this needs to be, under this ruling, this would lead to Boosie's dismissal. The problem is the Duarte case that drives this is going to be looked at in bank by the Ninth Circuit, which means not all of the judges, because there are so many of them, but it's like at least 11 judges now are first they're going to decide whether they look at it in bank, but then they'll decide whether this 3-judge ruling was correct. And it's actually a 2-to-1 ruling. So there's a dissent on it. And the dissent was warning that they're basically gutting Second Amendment law. So the judge was saying, under this ruling, Boosie's case needs to be thrown out. However, this ruling isn't final yet because they're probably going to look at it in bank. And right now that hasn't happened. So his lawyer just filed the motion for him to get off his ankle monitor, which the judge granted. But right now they've got the motion to dismiss him, but I don't think she's going to grant that until the Ninth Circuit finalizes this ruling that she's looking at, until they look at it in bank, which there hasn't been any kind of movement on that. And one thing that just happened is there was another Supreme Court ruling that came down, and they actually mentioned this in the last court hearing, was the Supreme Court was considering whether felons convicted of domestic violence could be banned from holding firearms. And the judge even said, wouldn't it be interesting if the Supreme Court rules in opposite of Bruen, which they actually ended up doing. Just a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that it's actually okay for felons convicted of domestic violence, they can be banned from owning firearms. So it bolsters the dissent in that Ninth Circuit ruling that says, this is the wrong ruling, you guys are screwing up Second Amendment firearm restrictions in America. And it bolsters the chance that when the Ninth Circuit does take up that case in bank, they're going to reverse it. And then that would be a question of, okay, now Boosie's case won't be dismissed. So it's kind of just a big legal conundrum of what's happening. And he's got a status conference on the 12th. I'm not sure if it's going to be delayed or not, but obviously the judge looks favorably on his situation right now. She's granting his motion to cut off his ankle monitor, that kind of thing. But if she was going to dismiss his case as is, she would have just done it already. But she's got to wait for these other rulings to happen. So I don't know if I just explained Ninth Circuit and SCOTUS law. Okay, no. It was getting a little in the weeds, but I want to do some kind of talk on this because I'm like, I think this would be a really good way to get people first of all, educate them on the Ninth Circuit and how all this stuff works, and get them interested in how much it matters who the justices are, and the judges, because there's been a big change on the Ninth Circuit. So I don't know. We could see some different rulings.